For me, the best work days always start and end on the bicycle. Riding to work in the morning and riding home in the afternoon. And for a good commute, you need a good commuter bike. And today, I'm riding one of those. Meet the Heybike Sola. This is a commuter-style e-bike I have been using for about a month, and probably the best e-bike for commuting that money can buy. Instead of getting lost in specifications, I really care about how a bicycle performs on my commute. And that is how I measure whether a commuter is good or not. And here I want to highlight a couple of things. The first one for me is always comfort. It's a very nice upright bicycle. It's got this nice, wide, comfortable and well padded saddle which supports your weight really well. And it's got these nice grips which are also very comfortable. It's got this nice tire which is wide enough to absorb most of the road bumps, but not as wide as a fat tire bike. So if you want to ride this bicycle without pedal assist, without the motor kicking in, you can actually do that because the bike is not as heavy and not as cumbersome to ride. You also notice that the top tube is not parallel with the ground, but it has this angle which allows you to do two things. If you're a shorter rider, you can let the saddle down quite low. But the second thing, and more important for me, is that I can get off the saddle and there is enough clearance so I don't hit my crotch against the tube. So that is an important thing for me. The second thing I want to highlight is the riding experience of this bicycle, which is phenomenal. The highlight of the bike is this here. It's got a torque sensor, which is the good kind of sensor which allows you to pedal in a very natural way. So it senses how much effort you are putting into pedaling and it assists you, the motor assists you in proportion to that. Now this is in contrast to a more traditional or a simpler cadence sensor which only senses whether you're pedaling or not. I find that the motor is plenty strong enough to get me up any hill that I need to climb. I have done 20-25% gradients on this bike, and even with the load, it gets me up without any problems. The brakes are mechanical disc brakes, which perform really well. I don't mind that they're not hydraulic. I think for a commuter, this is perfectly suitable. Now, also for the riding experience, it's very important to underline that you can ride this bike even without pedal assist, because first of all, it's not too heavy. And the second reason is that it has a good enough gear ratio, so you can actually climb hills on the smallest gear. When you put it in the easy gear, you can climb hills very easily, and the high gear lets you pedal quite fast. The battery easily lasts me 25 miles. I can do my round trip commute on a single charge. I know it's not as long as the claimed 50-mile range on the datasheet, but that is never the case. If you want to use your battery in the real world, you will always get shorter range than the claimed range on the datasheet. And the third thing I want to highlight in this bike is its practicality. There are some features here that make it really practical. First of all, you just sit on the bike, press the button, turn it on, and you're ready to go. You don't need to mess with anything, which is also a downside in my opinion, because if you had to use a key for the ignition, that would be like an extra step, an extra safety step. You also have the rack and the fenders. These have been added after I got the bike, so I purchased them separately, but you can also get them as part of the package when you place your order. The bike also comes with a front light and the rear light, and the front light is powered off the battery. The rear light has to be charged separately. You can take it off and use a USB-C cable to charge it. And the last thing I want to mention is that you probably noticed that this is a really good looking bike. You've got these leather grips, brown leather grips, the brown saddle and the brown tire walls, which complement really well the color of the bike. It's not a flashy bike, but it's a very elegant looking bike, and it's quite understated too, so you can lock it up outside and it's not going to draw too much attention. Now, of course, no bike is perfect, and I'm going to tell you about the drawbacks, but just let me ask you, if you are interested in picking up one of these bikes, please use the link in the description below, because that is going to help me create more content. I already mentioned that the key is only for removing the battery, but not an ignition key. You may like it, you may not like it. I am kind of liking it and not liking it. I like it because it's simplicity, but I don't like it because then anybody can ride the bike without the key. The second thing I don't really like is the battery placement. When you remove the battery, you have the gap for the battery exposed. So if you leave it locked up outside in the rain is going to end up there. And I am just concerned that all the electronics get wet. It would be a better design, in my opinion, if the battery was removable from the bottom. I don't have any problem with the brake performance, but there is some brake rub. So you can hear some noise coming from the brakes, which might bother you. And in that case, you might just want to upgrade the brakes. Now, speaking of brakes, the brake levers are by far the flimsiest part of this bike. I mean, I don't think these are going to last very long, and I think I'm gonna have to replace them quite soon. I already mentioned that the rear light is not powered off the battery, which I don't like too much. And I also criticized that the fenders and the rack are not part of the package. Now, the best part of this bike is by far the value that it offers, because everything you see here is less than $1,000. And in fact, I have seen it as low as $800, which is insane, because to get a decent commuter, even a non-electric commuter, you're looking at $600–700 minimum. So should you get this bike? I don't know. If you're in the market for an electric commuter bike, this is an excellent purchase. It gets you up to 20 miles per hour, goes plenty fast, it's plenty strong, it offers a nice long range. But for me, this bike is definitely worth its price.